Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com. Monday through Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific. Ray Flowers breaks it all down for you from a fantasy sports perspective. Oh, we got a little ahead of ourselves there, everybody. Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com. I am Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. You probably figured that out because you're smart folks. That is right. We're here every day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, rocking and rolling for you here on this free show. Again, powered by FantasyGuru.com. Go to FG, click that subscribe tab in the top right corner. Get your football stuff, your basketball stuff, your baseball stuff, your NCAA hoops, bracket, March Madness stuff, NASCAR, PGA, MMA, horse racing. We've got it all over at FG. Click that subscribe tab in the top right corner. Justin Fensterman hosts this show on Wednesdays, but on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, I host the show. And again, I'm Ray Flowers. You can follow me on social media and such at the Ray Flowers on Instagram, on Threads, on Blue Sky, on Twitter X. I'm kind of all over the place at the Ray Flowers. No more baseball, guys, because people used to think that I only did baseball. So change it to at the Ray Flowers all over the place. You can find me there. And you can find me rock and roll right now at FG. Let's throw it up on the screen here at the start of the show today. The draft guide is available. I know that the Discord room has exploded with questions the last week. So everyone seemingly is in draft mode right now. I assume drafts are basically happening, as I adjust my microphone. Drafts are basically happening every minute of every day at this point. So if we can help you out with the draft, hit us up. Discord's available to everyone that signs up for FantasyGuru.com packages. As you can see there on the screen, we got rankings for everything. We're going to actually have the Points League rankings updated for the final time today. The draft book, which is the combination of rankings and auction values, that's updated every Friday. The rankings page itself is updated every single day if necessary. And at this point of the season, it pretty much is. And we'll talk about some reasons why in a few minutes, why that's the case. We have Mixed League rankings, AL rankings, NL only rankings, Mixed League auction values, NL only auction values, AL only auction values, Points League rankings, Dynasty League rankings, rookie rankings. We got a lot to offer over at FantasyGuru.com. Right now, we're just crushing the player profiles at the site. Jackson Joe, here's the most recent ones. Jackson Joe, Noah Schultz, Jung-Hoo Lee, Sedona Rafaela, Roman Anthony, Helio Ramos, Tyler Fitzgerald, Garrett Mitchell. This morning, the hurler of the Angels, Jose Soriano, went up. So that's what we're doing here, basically crushing that until the start of the season. Click that subscribe tab in the top right corner of the page. Get signed up for the seasonal baseball product, which again is all year long. It's not just a preseason draft guide. It's all season long. You get access at the end of the regular season if you sign up now. So hit us up. Still plenty of time for you to cram and do some studying and read some articles and ask some questions over in Discord with us at FantasyGuru.com. You can also sign up for the DFS baseball package. That is getting ready to rock and roll. The wagering baseball package, that is getting ready to rock and roll. For those of you wondering my involvement, I'm involved in all three aspects. I am basically the seasonal guy in terms of DFS. I'm one of multiple people involved there. We are going to change things up a little bit. I'll talk about that next week as we get to opening week. I'll talk a little bit about how things are going to change up. We're going to streamline things a little bit. I think we're going to offer still what everyone wants, needs to have success in the DFS space. We're going to do it a little bit differently, so we'll talk about that. And then I'll probably talk a little bit too next week about the wagering piece. I might even try to record a podcast for those people. Let me make a note of that. For those people in with us over at FG that are members. Let's see if did I make a note of that? Let's see if I can figure a way to get that in there. We'll see if I can figure it out next week. We'll see. All right. So what are we talking about on the show today? Well, it is a Thursday. I almost forgot what day it is. So that means we're talking football with Tyler Beaker. In about a half hour, we'll talk with Tyler. The Tush push, should it be allowed? We'll talk about that with Tyler. Jeff Mans and I talked about it yesterday, and Jeff and I had different opinions. We'll talk about that on the show here in about a half hour. We'll give Tyler a chance to respond to T. Higgins and Jamar Chase returning to the Bengals. We'll talk to him about Mark Andrews, Cam Ward, J.J. McCarthy, the quarterback stick-up that Aaron Rodgers is holding the NFL at. Multiple teams waiting for Aaron Rodgers to make a decision, so no one knows what the hell's going on. Stefon Diggs, Rondale Moore, Najee Harris, Sam Darnold, and Carson Wentz might have an opportunity because of that craziness with Aaron Rodgers. We'll find out. We'll talk to Tyler Beaker in about 25 or 30 minutes. Before then, we'll talk baseball. And unfortunately, a lot of the news today is about pitching. And unfortunately, a lot of the news today about pitching is dealing with injury. So you can see the names there. Jared Jones, Clarke, Schmidt, Rangers, Suarez, Grayson, Rodriguez, Max Scherzer. What's going on in the bullpen in Boston? Craig Kimbrel was just recently signed. We got an update on the Diamondbacks' ninth inning scenario. And if you listen to the article that I wrote or the discussion we had here on the show about tandeming up your relievers, about handcuffing your closers, you're going to be pretty happy given that Diamondback situation. If you didn't do that, it might be pretty sad. So we'll talk about that a little bit as well. We'll talk about guys like Sandy Alcantara and Roki Sasaki as well. So let's just kind of dive in there. Oh, and remember, and you can see there on the screen on the green, figured tomorrow I've run a bunch of Twitter polls over the last couple of months. We had one show earlier where we spent a lot of time talking about some of the Twitter polls. Let's talk about another chunk of Twitter polls. We'll do that tomorrow. A bunch of the questions I asked of you. We'll discuss your answers and see how that impacts things in 2025. Remember, go to fantasyguru.com, click that subscribe tab in the top right corner of the page. As you're watching here on the show, also remember that you can leave comments and ask questions in multiple places. If you're watching us live on Twitter X at Fantasy Guru site, if you're watching us live on Facebook.com/FantasyGuruHQ, or if you're watching us live on YouTube at YouTube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork, all three of those places, you can watch the show live. You can always obviously watch on demand anytime you want. But if you're watching live at any of those three places, you can leave comments and questions that we will address throughout the show. So check that out. As an example, Angelo said, Schwellenbach looked great last night. Yeah, he had like 10 strikeouts last night. And Carrasco threw 5 shutout innings, and he didn't look bad. He didn't. I'm still not buying Carlos Carrasco. I still think it's terrible that the Yankees are going to have to depend on him. But Angelo, you're right. Both guys looked pretty sharp last night. An example of the questions you can leave and the comments you can leave that we address throughout the show. All right, let's dive in and talk some baseball. Let's start out with Jared Jones news, and it's not good news. I have Jared Jones in my Dynasty League. Drafted him last year, had that great rookie season. My Dynasty League is 14 teams, 50 roster spots, so full-on Dynasty League. So losing a guy like Jared Jones for a significant amount of time would suck. We don't know right now if Jared Jones is really going to miss a significant amount of time. So it might be minor. It might be major. The bottom line is that Jared Jones is undergoing imaging on his elbow, and he's awaiting a second opinion. Normally, when you hear imaging and a second opinion, normally that's not good. Because, if everything looks fine, the first doctor looks at it, hey, man, we're cool. All right, thanks. If it's a second opinion, usually, not always, but obviously, usually it's, hey, doc, I looked at it. What do you think? Or I see something here. I'm not overly concerned, but how do you read it? So that's kind of where we're at right now with Jared Jones. The bottom line is he's not going to pitch again in spring training because of the issue with his right elbow. There is no official diagnosis and or timetable at this moment in time. So again, Jared Jones could miss the first 2 weeks of the season. He could miss April. He could miss half the year. He could miss the full season. We have no idea right now. Talking with Phil Backert at FantasyGuru.com, we have a running dialogue in IM. Phil does our IDP for football, and he's Mr. Oriole for baseball. He's also one of the producers on the SiriusXM show. Jeff's band show on SiriusXM Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm with him every Wednesday, which is why I'm not here next week as well. We talked about having a little discussion about the DFS plan, about the wagering plan, but we have a discussion about the Sirius plan. We'll do that next week as well here on the show. As far as Jared Jones, Phil and I have this discussion every day, and it's every day there's a new pitcher that we're worried about, and it's now Jared Jones. And let's hope this is nothing. I'm not convinced it's nothing. And again, this is, my opinions on fantasy baseball have changed over the years, as I'm sure yours have too, right? As the years have gone on, and as I've sat in this chair, and, this is so I started full-time in fantasy in 2001. So we're approaching 25 years doing this full-time. And as I've said previously, there are probably 100 people in the world that have done that. Like, there's not a lot of people that have done that. Famous people on television haven't done that. And I did it for years before then. I probably started actually officially writing. I have to look it up. 1996, I'm guessing. 97, 98, somewhere in there. I'd have to go look. But it was in the 90s. I did it part-time while I was in college. I've seen everything in the growth of the sport and the way this game has changed, the way the fantasy space has changed, the rise of DFS, wagering, all that kind of stuff. And I don't ever remember a time, because there has never been a time, where pitching has been more dangerous. And this is why we talk a lot about, do you have an interest in doing an offense-only league? And everyone says, no, I don't want to do that. No. If you don't do that, you end up in a scenario where you drafted Jared Jones to be your SP3, and right now we're sitting in limbo not knowing if he's even going to make a start this season. I've drafted teams where I've got guys that are already being put on the injured list. The season hasn't even started. Like, what are we doing? So, as I say frequently, if you're, whatever league you're in, whatever setup you're in, make sure you build depth on the pitcher's mound. You never have too much pitching. There's a series of articles for those of you that missed them over at fantasyguru.com. Early pitching, mid pitching, late pitching in terms of where do you draft these guys. A series of 3 articles where I go through ADP and I say if you waited, if you took pitching in the middle route, if you really went aggressive early with pitching, how does your team turn out? I would encourage everyone to read those articles, because maybe that'll help you impact how you put a team together. The bottom line is, anyone drafting pitching early, I think you're doing it wrong. I've said it over and over again. The question is, how long should you wait? How much waiting do you do? That to me is the question, not do you grab Paul Skeens in the second round. But that's me. We'll continue to wait and hope to get good news on Jared Jones. Sandy Alcantara, not an injury with Alcantara, so don't worry if you don't see him pitch again this spring. The Mariners are doing kind of an odd thing, in my opinion. They're saying he won't make another start in the Grapefruit League. He's going to work in a controlled environment on the backfields. Again, no concerns right now about injury. Not really sure what this is. This is just strange. It's the Marlins. They suck. I don't know. But I'm not backing off Sandy Alcantara's ADP, his rankings over at fantasyguru.com at all. I think this is just the team making a decision. So don't worry if you don't see him make another start, unless we hear information about a concern. And again, there's been zero concern given from the Marlins in terms of Sandy Alcantara and his return from injury and surgery. So I'm thinking this is just them making a weird play. So don't worry about Alcantara if you don't see him back on the hill, unless we get further information. Jordan Hicks of the Giants, we spent a lot of time talking about Kyle Harrison and Hayden Birdsong and how's the fifth spot in the Giants rotation gonna work out. Just to put it out there, we do have a scenario when it comes to Jordan Hicks that he's had a bad spring. No way around that. It's been rough, man. But at least the velocity is creeping up. Now, he used to throw 100 miles an hour in the bullpen. Last year, he was at about 95 in his return to the starting rotation for the Giants, which makes sense, right? I'm trying to throw 80 pitches versus throwing 18. This spring, he's hitting 95, 97. There's a couple 99s, even hit 100 a couple times. This is good news for Jordan Hicks. His arm appears to be healthy. Okay, last night he was averaging 97 miles an hour, which is a significant improvement on 95 miles an hour, obviously. He's intriguing because of the arm talent. However, as I noted, his spring has been rough. He ended last season in kind of a disappointing manner. He's not a big strikeout guy despite the velocity. He seems to be an excellent streaming option. Jordan Hicks is not somebody that you can draft and expect him to make 25 starts. 20, okay, but are you going to draft the guy that's going to make 20 starts? So a big arm, probably a streaming guy when he's pitching at home. But the good news is he looks healthy right now, though he has not performed well in spring. Brett Baty, speaking about a guy who's performed well in spring, Brett Baty has. The Mets, obviously, Baty's failed to live up to expectations, not where he's expected to have been at this point of his development. He was supposed to be established as a major league player by now, potentially be making an all-star team or so. Hasn't even established himself as a big leaguer. The Mets have said, hey, look, we're going to try you out at second base here because of the Jeff McNeil injury. And, we sat here on the show and talked about Baty and Mauricio and Angel and Acuna. And it looks like Brett Baty might be the second baseman for the Mets on opening day. Now, I don't think this goes well defensively. And Baty could open the season as a starter for the Mets at second and hit 180 the first 3 weeks and then get demoted. But if he keeps hitting like he has in spring, he's driven the baseball effectively. He's batting over 300. He does have a pedigree. It's been really tough. I bumped him up a couple of spots in the rankings at FG. I still really struggle to see him running away with the second base gig this year and getting 500 plate appearances. So tepid support for Brett Baty, but interesting, especially for those of you in head-to-head leagues looking to catch fire early in the season. Brett Baty, a name to remember because it's not official, but he's certainly trending toward being the opening day second baseman for the Mets, and that wasn't expected. Jurickson Profar, finally expected to return to the lineup today. He's got a wrist issue that has kept him out for a couple of weeks. The Braves outfielder is supposed to return today. We'll see how he does. We talked about it earlier in the week. He had that bone bruise on his wrist. You're always a little concerned with wrist and hand injuries. Guys coming back, does it sap their power a little bit? There's obviously the concern about Profar's ability to fully replicate what he did last season. He took a huge step forward last season. The batted ball data really went up last season. Like, he deserved a lot of what happened last season. And he had a pretty good year. It's always difficult to look at a player like Jurickson Profar, who's in his 30s, who's been around for a decade, who, remember, as we've talked about, Jurickson Profar was the #1 prospect in baseball years ago. #1 prospect in baseball at any position. And you would never know that because he's 32 years old. And before last year, he had one pretty solid season in his career. And he's always been a guy that you pick up for 2 or 3 weeks here and there in fantasy, often multi-position eligible, right? They had 2 decent seasons, right? Last year was good. 280, 24 home runs, 85 RBIs, 94 runs scored. He was good. The exciting part about his start to the season, if he's healthy right now, is with Acuna not available to start the season as he works his way back from that knee injury, it seems like Profar is batting leadoff for this team. Now, when Acuna returns, I have to think Acuna goes back into the leadoff spot, which hopefully in Profar's case drops him to #2. I don't think that's the way it's going to play out. I think it'll be Acuna, Riley, Olsen, Ozuna, Harris, Profar, or Harris Albies Profar. So Profar goes from hitting leadoff with Acuna out to probably hitting 7th without him. So factor that into, we'll watch closely how he performs here the next week and a half before the season begins, because he, early on at least, in a really position of power in the batting order for the Braves. At least that's the expectation. Turning things over to the Red Sox. We got a situation here at the second base position. Vaughn Grissom, as expected, has been demoted. He struggled this spring, didn't get it done. Demoted to the minor leagues yesterday. So that would seem to leave Christian Campbell and David Hamilton at second base for the Boston Red Sox. However, Marcelo Mayer, who was the 3rd prospect, everyone's talking about Roman Anthony and Campbell. Marcelo Mayer, maybe he's going to be the second baseman. Christian Campbell has not been very good this spring either. He's been much more like Vaughn Grissom. And here's Marcelo Mayer, who's hitting .350 this spring. And yesterday, in a lineup that basically had the starters up and down in the Red Sox lineup, second baseman was Marcelo Mayer. So maybe Mayer, again, I was hoping it would be Grissom. I was thinking if it wasn't Grissom, it would be Campbell. Marcelo Mayer. So check it out. Check out his information over at fantasyguru.com. Let's see here. I wrote it so long ago. I'm thinking I am about 99% positive that we wrote up Mayer in the rookie profile section. So let me pull that up just to verify that I'm not losing my mind, because this article is posted on February 1st. Let's make sure, Ray. Don't let me down, Ray. I did not let myself down. So go over to fantasyguru.com, go to the MLB section, go to the rookie section inside the MLB section, and look for the 2025 MLB Rookie Scouting Report Hitters section for a breakdown of Marcelo Mayer. Roki Sasaki pitched the other day in a real game, because Major League Baseball's in its infinite wisdom has the Cubs and Dodgers playing a 2-game set over across the sea. We know that. Sasaki gave up a run in 3 innings of work, pitched poorly. 25 strikes in 56 pitches. That is not good, to say the least. Just didn't have the command of his fastball. And again, 1 outing. I'm not overly concerned by that. I've heard a lot of people say, oh, they pulled him at 56 pitches. Even though half his pitches were strikes. Like, he did not have it, okay? Was able to watch some highlights of the game, because, again, I didn't get up at 3 in the morning to watch this. Did you see the splitter? Yeah. Again, to reiterate, there are a lot of scouts that consider Roki Sasaki's splitter to not only be the best splitter in baseball, to be the best single pitch in the world. Any pitcher, any pitch they throw, his splitter might be the #1 pitch in the world. And if you saw some of the highlights, even in this game where he had no control, didn't know what the hell whoo! So again, Sasaki's never thrown 130 innings as a professional. We'll see if he can get there this year with the Dodgers. I wouldn't be excited by his first outing, but I certainly also on the flip side wouldn't be depressed about it. Didn't go well, but he still only allowed 1 run in his 3 innings of work in a game that actually counted for the Dodgers. Ranger Suarez is supposed to start Friday, tomorrow, for the Phillies. He won't. He's got some back stiffness. The team is saying that, okay, it's not as bad as last year, which is good, because Suarez's back injury last year led him to the injured list. Remember, Suarez was dynamic in the first half last season. In the second half, he really pulled back. Overall, he was still very effective. I think there's a very reasonable path to him being a serviceable mixed league starter. Not sexy or exciting. It's not a big strikeout arm. I don't think there's another step. I think the leveling off we saw in the second half was because he was over his skis in the first half. I think he's just a fine pitcher. But back injuries, we talk about it all the time. And when it's a back injury that's kind of extending itself into this season, so yeah, it's one of those things. I'm a Rangers Suarez fan in terms of the overall skill set and in terms of let's stream this guy as a pitcher. I'm not a huge fan of drafting him and expecting him to make 28 starts for my team. And with this early unfortunate situation with his shoulder, is he even going to make 28 starts? I mean, his back, is he even going to make 28 starts? We'll see. Not bad news, certainly not good news. We'll have to keep an eye on Rangers Suarez. Clarke Schmidt, same thing. Not bad news, but not good news. Clarke Schmidt, who was so consistent last season, basically threw 5 innings almost every time he took the hill. I was looking to take that next step this year of throwing 160-plus innings. Maybe he still get there this year, but he's had a little bit of a wonky shoulder. We talked about it here on the show. The Yankees have said he's fine. He's okay. It's not a big deal. There's no injury here, really. But they admitted, look, this guy's not going to be able to throw 75 or 80 pitches to start the season. He's just not there in his progression. That being the case, does he start the season on the injury list? Possibly. Even if he doesn't start the season on the injury list, I mean, if he's making his first start and he's not up to throwing 75 pitches, you can't use him. You can't expect him to go 5 innings. The Yankees, as we've discussed here on the show, we talked about Carrasco earlier. I mean, they're already without Cole and Heel. Like Clarke Schmidt being down, like it's getting really dicey. I mean, the Yankees are really depending on Marcus Stroman. So, again, not bad news. Will Warren's another guy that has to be taken into consideration for a streamer at the start of the season because it looks like he's going to be making starts. I'm not sure whether Clarke Schmidt's going to open the year on the injured list or not. But if you wake up and they say that's injured list, Clarke Schmidt, don't panic. No one right now is suggesting there is a panic scenario. It's more of a scenario we just ran out of time. So keep the faith in Clarke Schmidt. Knock him down a little bit, of course. But keep the faith in Clarke Schmidt for now. We'll see if that news changes. And it always could. Bailey Ober has been somebody I've been tracking a lot here in spring. And we've talked a lot about on the show the value of radar guns and what it means in spring training. Because a lot of the stadiums just have radar guns. They don't have the StatCast system set up. And so how reliable are the numbers and all this kind of stuff. Bailey Ober had 5 shutout innings against the Tigers on Tuesday, 5 shutout innings, great. Who cares? There's no problem. His velocity is down. Bailey Ober doesn't throw 99 miles an hour. Bailey Ober throws 92, 91, 92. So he actually, for a 6'9" human being, throws extremely slow and gets a lot of strikeouts given his lack of velocity. He's a good pitcher. And we've highlighted him for years here at fantasyguru.com. But his velocity's down. Last year, he was about 92 miles an hour on his fastball. Yesterday, or 2 days ago, he was averaging 89. That's troubling. That's 3 miles an hour down. And before you say, well, Ray, it's just one game, you know this happens. Of course I know this happens. We talk about it on the show. This is not the only time his velocity's been down. In fact, his velocity has always been down this spring, according to the radar guns are reading. He's never been out there averaging, unless I'm mistaken, and I don't think I am. I don't think he's ever had a game this season that he's pitched in that he's averaged 92 miles an hour on his fastball. Is he conserving it? Is he saving it? Again, he was still effective yesterday. I dropped him a couple spots in the rankings yesterday at fantasyguru.com. I had to. I just felt I had to. Is this me reading too much into 2 miles an hour? Maybe. But I tend to think of it 2 ways. One, it's down 2 miles an hour, which, again, there are explanations there, and maybe it's no big deal. But secondly, not just is the velocity down a little bit, you have to wonder physically, is something just not right? Corollary to that, he threw 5 innings yesterday. They don't let him throw 5 innings if they're worried about his health. Is it mechanics? If it's mechanics, how is he throwing 5 shutout innings? So it's a really weird scenario. Again, I dropped him just a couple of spots. I would still draft Bailey Ober. There's a little bit of trepidation, which I didn't have 2 months ago. And I think it's warranted for the reasons we're discussing. Grayson Rodriguez on Tuesday threw off the flat ground. He's coming back from that elbow injury. We don't have a definitive timeline for him either at this point. Returning in April sometime, I guess. I think at this point in time, we're hoping he makes 25 starts. So he threw off flat ground. He threw from 75 feet after taking about a week off with the elbow issue. Apparently no red flags were raised, so we're progressing forward. But again, he's probably a month away from pitching in the bigs, I'm guessing. I think that's fair at this point. So he has obviously been dropped in the rankings, but not off the shelf. Now, if we get any, it's kind of like it did with Royce Lewis. Yesterday we were talking about Royce Lewis, or 2 days ago. If we get any kind of hiccup again with Grayson Rodriguez and his recovery here, if we hear anything the next couple of days, I'm dropping him 20 spots in the rankings. Like, we're just not dealing with this anymore. Remember what we always talk about here on the show too. If there are two guys and you're like, which way to go? If Grayson Rodriguez is one of the two guys and the other guy is healthy, maybe just take the healthy guy. Max Scherzer, speaking of a guy that can't get healthy, he's had this thumb issue that's kind of been going on for a while now. And he's an old fella, Max Scherzer, right? His body's not the same. I talked about it on the Elite Sports Show yesterday. My body's all trashed. My shoulder's jacked up. I got rotator cuff tears. Like, I'm just all kinds of beat up, but I'm old. I'm 10 years older than Scherzer, but you get old and things happen. And Scherzer's body just can't do what he used to do. Now, Scherzer, just like Clayton Kershaw, who's in the same scenario, both these guys get outs. They keep pitching, they get outs. In the case of Scherzer, we're worried about the thumb, but the Blue Jays, John Schneider, the manager, said, look, Max is a little bit better than we thought he would feel after his last throwing session, so we're not as concerned. In fact, things are moving to the point that Scherzer's going to throw off the mound today, provided there's no soreness. Maybe he's okay. Maybe he throws 70, 75 pitches. He could still avoid a trip to the injury list to start the season. Could miss the start of the season. Maybe he's out there at the start of the season. We shall see over the next, obviously, week. He's just Max Scherzer now. He's going to miss starts. The question is how many, right? And his ADP reflects that. Liam Hendricks picked up the save yesterday for the Red Sox. Note that he did give up a run in that effort. Just wanted to touch on the situation there with Liam Hendricks. There's still obviously a chance he leads the Red Sox in saves. I think the odds of him of being the closer to start the year with the Red Sox is very low. They keep giving him opportunities, such as yesterday. Again, he did get the save, but he allowed a run. Aroldis Chapman struck out the side in the 8th inning ahead of Hendricks yesterday. He's the slight favorite right now to work the 9th inning. Chapman himself has had issues with wildness. They would love to have Chapman, who's obviously left-handed, I think, be in the bullpen as more of a matchup guy, a dominant matchup guy, because you look at the rest of the bullpen. Liam Hendricks, who's a righty, obviously. You look at Garrett Whitlock, he's a righty. You look at Justin Slayton, he's a righty. I think they would prefer to have one of those righties work the 9th inning and allow Chapman to be 9th inning guy if necessary, but also the 8th inning guy. So we'll see. If you're drafting Liam Hendricks, I would completely go with the tandem handcuff, running back, wide receiver. Tandem wide running back, closer plan. We'll talk about in a second with the Diamondbacks. I would go Chapman and Hendricks if I could. And ADP says you absolutely can. So it's something to consider. A couple more things before we visit with Tyler Beaker in terms of the bullpen. Craig Kimbrel signed with the Braves. Kimbrel, by the way, is 5th all-time in saves. 5th. Took him all the way until now to sign. He signed a minor league contract. Oh, my gosh. There is a very real possibility that within a very short period of time, Craig Kimbrel is working as the major setup man or the main setup man for the Braves returning home to Atlanta. Raisel Iglesias is still the closer. If he doesn't have any hiccups, he's not going to be replaced by Craig Kimbrel, but a good signing by the Braves, giving them a 9th inning guy if they want to indeed make a change. And then finally, again, we talked about it here on the show. I just mentioned it. There's an article over at fantasyguru.com. Should you handcuff your relievers? Troy Lovullo, the manager of the Diamondbacks, in the most updated closer grid article from just a couple of days ago. You can actually go and read that article at fantasyguru.com. Click the subscribe tab. Excuse me. Click the subscribe tab in the top right corner. There's a little 26-second video of him talking about the 9th inning where he basically says, look, we don't have a closer. There's going to be times where it's A.J. Puck. There's going to be times where it's Justin Martinez, and we might even use Kevin Ginkel in the 9th inning. The Diamondbacks don't have a closer. They're going to start that way. I'm still anticipating Justin Martinez leads this team in saves. But as I drafted personally, I think in the FSGA draft that we had, right up over at FG, free article for everyone to read, I drafted Martinez and Puck. I took them both. I think they both could be dynamic guys this season out of the bullpen. If one guy gets 13 saves, the other one gets 20 saves, well, I got my 33 saves there. Both guys should be striking out 11, 12 guys per 9 innings with good ratios. This is one of those scenarios where you take Martinez and Puck both, you use them both, hopefully they give you 30 saves, and they give you, 190 strikeouts and 153 innings of work. That's a lot of strikeouts. It's possible. That's a lot of strikeouts. But again, the manager of the Diamondbacks says we're not going to have a closer to start the season. We're going to kind of play matchups. Check out the most recent closer grid over at fantasyguru.com for more information on that. All right, so there is the baseball talk for the day. Tomorrow we'll come back with even more baseball talk, obviously. But now it's time to talk some football. And on the show on Thursdays, that means we're talking with Tyler Buecher. And I don't know, I've got a little picture of him in the green room, and we're going to bring him on here in just 1 second. Tyler's looking pretty sharp. So I don't know. Did Tyler get a haircut? Let's bring him on the show and find out. Tyler Buecher of fantasyguru.com. How you doing, Tyler?
Doing good, right? Yes. Yeah. Trim the beard, no longer the playoff version. NFL season's fully in the rearview mirror, so I've switched to spring mode. We are ready to rock and roll, and excited for some talking to you today here on today's show.
Isn't that one of the things too? Because I always have a beard too, because I don't think my lady likes my face without it. But I always have a beard. It's tough when it gets warm.
Yeah.
Like when when it's cold, it's like, I always love it, or it's so interesting for those people that don't grow beards. You have a beard, it's 45 degrees outside. Okay. You shave the beard off, the next day you go outside when it's 45, your face is cold. Like you don't realize how much is there. But conversely, when it gets 90 degrees out and you're on the East Coast, Tyler, it can get humid. It's tough with the beard. Is that playing into this a little bit too, the kind of the weather piece as well?
Yeah, we're already seeing nice days of 75 plus degrees. I'm trying to get out there and run a little bit more. So getting the beard out of the way for cardio, trying to reduce the drag resistance, improve my mile time. Yeah, right. Every little shortcut we can.
Are you? I didn't know this. Are you a runner? Was that something you did back in school and everything, or just you do it now to stay in shape?
Yeah, I played soccer for many, many years and was a long distance runner as well. Trying to get back into that.
I know you did the treadmill. You've done the treadmill. Do you do a lot of treadmill work or outside work?
Outside work, yeah.
Yeah, outside.
It's tough with treadmills.
Right? It's like you're just staring at the wall. A lot of people love that. They watch a show or listen to a podcast or something. Hey, if you're doing it, listen to this show as a podcast. Go to fantasyguru.com, click that Elite Plus tab at the top of the page. You can get the podcast right there. You can type in Fantasy Sports Daily to your podcast network. We just solved what to listen to while you're working out. All right, Tyler, let's get into some football here. And thanks for joining us today, as you do every Thursday. The Tush push. It's in the news. Packers are saying, let's ban it. They brought it up. They're going to have a vote and everything in the NFL. And Jeff Mans and I talked about this on the Elite Sports Show yesterday. Again, that's Monday through Friday at 3 o'clock Eastern time. Jeff said, if defenses decide to try to stop this with 5 defensive backs on the field, well, too bad, right? Like if you want to stop the play, load up your beefcake defense and stop the play. Don't run your base defensive set because it's not going to work. So Jeff looks at it that until the defenses change enough to stop the tush push from working with the Eagles, tough on the defense. My point of view is that the tush push is not a football play. It's not. We're not doing a tug of war. We're not doing a scrum in polo, not polo, in rugby, playing football. And I brought this up on the show yesterday. How many highlights have you seen with Jim Brown at the goal line with someone pushing him in the butt? What are your thoughts on the tush push in general? And what are your thoughts about the NFL? Should they ban it?
I frankly don't have any strong opinions on this. I do think it's a very, very successful play in terms of the Eagles and their short yardage conversions. They've been I think since the last over the last 3 seasons, they're the 3rd most successful team in short yardage situations. Not many teams have offensive lines that are as talented as the Eagles. Not many teams have a quality offensive line coach like Jeff Stoutland. Not many teams have a 600-plus squatter at quarterback. I agree with Jeff. If they're going to try to change this, throw some more heavier defensive tackles on the line of scrimmage, get linebackers close to the line of scrimmage. I think it's a fine play to do. If they were to ban it, I think teams like the Eagles or other teams that are successful with the short yardage conversions are just going to find other ways to do it, and do it in terms of finding other successful ways to convert. I like the play because it's a physical competition in my eyes. I truly don't care enough to see it meriting a rule change. And I've seen enough teams around the league where it's not just the Eagles that do it. They just do it at a pronounced level where it's probably a bit more a regular part of their play call. They'll do it on 3rd and short, 4th and short, no matter where they are down in distance on the field. But Other squads do it as well. So I think in order for this to be banned, they need 24 plus owners to say no. And I think there's enough offenses in the league to probably make that a non-issue in terms of the likelihood of it getting called.
What about the angle of it's a bad look? I mean, we're in the playoffs here, and we got a defense jumping off sides 47 times trying to stop this, to the point where the referees basically said, "You do this again, we're giving them a touchdown." Like, that's bad. Like, that's just a bad look for the NFL. Am I overblowing this because it happened in the playoffs and not week 2 of the NFL season? Because I'm watching this when it's happening last year, and I'm thinking, oh my God, like, what's going on here?
That was infuriating watching the Commanders do that time and time again. I don't disagree with you there. At the same time, they kept failing. I don't know if there would have ever been a limit to it. Like, I get the refs getting involved with the awarding of a touchdown, but is that a thing? Like, I felt like that was more of an empty, hollow threat because we've never seen that occur before.
Right.
No, my answer to it is invest in the defensive line, get some bigger guys, and maybe instead of having 2 defensive tackles and 2 edge players, line up 4 defensive tackles. I like it. I like the physical angle of it. I like the scrum nature of it. You're right where that's more of a rugby play, but doesn't mean there can't be any crossover. I mean, rugby has kicking and passing, and there's all kinds of different crossovers.
No, they almost use a football. It's kind of the same. What about the idea of, hey, man, it's 2nd and 3, and let's give the ball to Ray Davis, and he gets hit at the line of scrimmage, and here comes the rest of the team, and all of a sudden that 1-yard carry, it's 3 yards, 4 yards, 6 yards, 7 yards, and 47 human beings fall on top of each other. You're okay with that too? Because again, it bothers me. Maybe I'm just, again, if we're disagreeing, that's fine. But they're okay with that, where you see it, the running back gets stopped, and then everyone just keeps pushing him, and the fans are screaming, and here's 7-yard carry on what should have been a yard and a half.
Well, that comes down to the ref's discretion of him being stopped. That's whether they blow the whistle or not. If they are stopped, which it should be, as soon as forward progress is stopped, momentum is stopped, that's when they are supposed to call the whistle. So if they, in their eyes, the refs see it as them still playing the play, it hasn't finished, then let them carry on. But yeah, we may just have to disagree on this one.
Which is totally fine. Tyler Beaker, fantasyguru.com. Bengals, we didn't get a chance to talk to you about the signings, the dual signings of their wide receivers. We talked, I think, about it with Russell Clay last week. But T. Higgins, we talked about Marshall earlier this week. What am I saying? T. Higgins got $115 million over 4 years. Jamar Chase got 4 years, $161 million. The highest paid duo of wide receivers ever. Chase is the highest non-paid quarterback ever. Higgins is the highest paid second wide receiver in NFL history. Okay, all this stuff. And I'm not going to, we talked, Armando and I, about the logistics of the salaries and what it does to the team and their structure and all that. Talk to me more about the on-field piece here, because it seems like when we saw this last year in spades, when these two guys were both on the field, that this is one of the best passing attacks in football. Burrow, Chase, Higgins is pretty dynamic. But when you spend this amount of money, do you have depth at the wide receiver spot? And that's something they need, because let's not forget, T. Higgins has missed 10 games the last 2 years. And I'm not certain, given everything we've seen with T. Higgins to this point, that now that he's got paid, he's going to play every game. So how does the money piece factor into that part of the market here? And do you feel that the depth that the Bengals currently have is enough at the wide receiver position?
Well, they're not just one of the best offenses. They are the best offense last year whenever all 3 of Higgins, Chase, and Burrow were on the field together. They were number 1 in EPA per snap and number 1 in offensive success rate when all 3 of these guys were on the field together. That's phenomenal. And to me, I think that's enough of a reason to be bullish and want to spend this money on Higgins, bring them back. Burrow's been pushing it for a while. We saw a recent interview with Chase interviews where referring to both these guys as 1As. I like this. I'm ecstatic that they're keeping this duo together, because this offense is a lot better when both guys are on the field. There was a lot of time last year where Higgins was missing some action due to injury. And we saw other guys step up. We saw Mike Gesicki, who turned into being like their random slot guy. They paid him too. Yeah, 3 years, $30+ million. Yeah. Good contract for him. The offensive line is the biggest concern for me at this point in terms of having money for that, because they were 32nd in ESPN's pass block win rate last year. Not ideal. Both their guards, I could say they need some blue chip upgrades. We need a big step forward from last year's round 1 pick in Amarius Mims, who played right tackle. Unfortunately, this defense is also on the very end of the spectrum in the opposite direction in terms of poor play. I think we'll see a high majority of draft picks in this year's class being spent on the defensive side. They're very thin almost across the board there, but let's say that it takes some time for them to rebuild this defense. If you're going to have a defense that struggles, we're going to see a lot of numbers in Cincinnati in terms of passing productivity. This team is already one of the highest in terms of passing completion over expectation and passing rate over expectation. These guys just continuously throw the ball, and we've seen Burrow just find a lot of success, not just with the deep shots for like a vertical guy like T. Higgins, but attacking all layers of the field, attacking all quadrants. I think this was a great signing. I think they have enough depth there too. It stinks. It feels like the Jermaine Burton signing from last draft was probably more of a UFL pickup in the near future over anything that the Bengals can count on with any consistency. But they've got plenty of great talent on this offense to, I think, get by. And this is a team that's no stranger to playing 3 wide, 4 wide, and even getting some of those tight ends out there with a lot of pass catching reps. Chase Brown, also a very, very adept pass catcher out of the backfield.
Tyler Beaker, FantasyGuru.com. Let's go over to one of the teams that they're always battling with, the Bengals, the Ravens. The Ravens gave that $4 million bonus to Mark Andrews, obviously signifying they're kind of keeping him this year. I know there's a lot of debate about would they decide to do this or not. Mark Andrews has historically been somebody you drafted the tight end 1 and you're always happy. And there were moments last year when the season began where, but in the end, he went on a 2-month scoring spree where it was a touchdown every week and the numbers were fine. More of the same expected? Do you have concerns about him heading into 2025, either because of age, because of the offense, because of the growth of likely? Where's Mark Andrews for you right now?
About a lot of the concern. I think he's kind of being drafted at a ceiling last year, and I'm always hesitant to go back to players that have had touchdowns buoy their fantasy scores, given how random they can be in a season-to-season outlook. Picking up the $4 million roster bonus for Andrews, I think it's a no-brainer in my eyes, because I liken this to like a dynasty league where we've got dynasty cuts coming up, let's say next week. Some teams will just be like, okay, I've got to get down to the minimum roster amount that I can have on my team. Andrews doesn't make the cut, I'm cutting him. Okay. Other teams are going to be trying shopping him, see what they can get, a second, a third, whatever they can get. And we've got to keep in mind that I think there's still a big market for Andrews. He's not a spring chicken, but I think he's still got plenty of years left. He didn't really see a fall off in productivity. But the Ravens are probably looking for like a day 2 selection in return. So to let him out there for free in terms of like a free cut just did not ever seem like a likely possibility to my eyes. This just gives them a longer window to make a deal. Or if the market's not what they expect it to be, retaining Andrews makes a lot of sense given how often this team used.
Tyler Beaker of FantasyGuru.com. He froze. For those of you watching on the screen, we've got a great shot of Tyler's new beard. We'll give him a moment here and see if he can get the tech going, because you know how this goes, folks. He's there. I'm here. Oh, there he's Tyler. He's back. Tyler, we just had a great freeze there shot of your beard. You were looking sharp. Continue your final thoughts there on Mark Andrews.
Yeah, I just wouldn't be shocked if the Ravens were content just keeping him in-house if they don't get the draft consolation that they're looking for in terms of a trade. One of Lamar's favorite targets, team-friendly player, a likely shoe-in for the Ravens Hall of Fame, as they've talked about. Yeah, I think we're just kind of in sit-and-wait mode for Mark Andrews at this time. But as far as fantasy outlook, I'm tentatively hitting the brakes a bit here.
Tyler Beaker of FantasyGuru.com. Tyler, you and I have talked about the Titans before, what their plan is at quarterback. It's still uncertain. You've hinted, I think, that Aaron Rodgers going there, it'd be kind of, it's not going to happen. He's holding everyone else hostage. But the Titans are apparently considering taking Cam Ward with the first pick. We've also heard reports that the Browns are so desperate, they might even consider trading up to get the first pick to get Cam Ward. Again, I don't study college guys until they get drafted. Everyone knows that. Is this fervor over Cam Ward warranted? Like, my understanding was that Cam Ward, he's fine, but no one was saying franchise quarterback here with Cam Ward. And now it's not only is he going to be the number 1 pick, we might have a team trading up a spot just to get this guy. What's going on here, Tyler?
I'm in the same bucket as you, where I don't view him as like a future surefire QB1 all-pro quarterback. To me, he's more in the average to below average bucket. But when we look at the team build construct from like a financial viewpoint, that's worth taking the investment risk on, knowing that this is a guy like we're not spending a boatload of money on. We can still build around and find other ways to improve our team as this guy develops over his rookie contract. I just think he's looking more and more like the number one pick with each passing day. Over the last week, he's climbed in draft odds from a minus 150 overall selection as the number one pick to those odds shifting to now minus 1,000. That's a huge jump.
Wow.
So even if it's not the Titans, somebody is going to probably be drafting him, because I think the only reason to move all the way up to the top of the board is to get Cam Ward.
Right.
We also have to keep in mind how poor Will Levis played last year. Among all 34 QBs with 300-plus dropbacks, dead last in EPA per play. Anthony Richardson was better. Cooper Rush was better. Gardner Minshew, Mac Jones, Daniel Jones, all these guys better. So if your quarterback position is not set, I think you need to take as many swings at that as you can. And to be at the top of the board, hopefully this team isn't doing it year in and year out. So take a swing at the number one QB in this year's class. And maybe it's just poor luck that this is the class that you have to do it with, but I think not doing it and sticking with Will Levis again would just be a disservice to your franchise. So I'm not ecstatic about Ward as terms of like if I'm in a dynasty league, I'm not trying to go sell all of my future assets to try to climb up to the 101 so I can select him in my super flex draft, but I don't blame an NFL franchise for taking swings at the QB position given how important it is.
Tyler, the Vikings took a swing at the quarterback position last year. They drafted J.J. McCarthy. We know how that played out. He got hurt. Sam Darnold exploded, had that great season, all that. We're hearing reports that suggest that J.J. McCarthy is somebody that other teams are saying, look, hey, if you're interested in trading him, and the Vikings are saying no. What's your gut on this situation? Because Aaron Rodgers apparently has gone full Brett Favre and just wants to do everything Brett Favre did. Now he wants to be the quarterback of the Vikings. He won't make a decision. He's holding the Steelers hostage. He's holding the Giants hostage. He's holding the Vikings hostage to some degree. Is J.J. McCarthy going to be starting in week one for the Vikings, in your opinion? And what are your thoughts on him prospect talent-wise, given everything that we know about him and given the fact that he missed all of last season?
Yeah, I mean, we have to keep in mind he was a top 10 pick, and a big knock during the draft process was his lack of dropbacks in a run-oriented Michigan offense. That said, one of my favorite stats from him last year was that he was number 4 in the nation among all Power 5 quarterbacks in adjusted accuracy rating with an 80.0%. This dude can throw the ball. He can spin it. He now plays behind an offensive line that got some upgrades. We got that big contract for Will Fries. They brought in Ryan Kelly from the Colts. Some big help there in terms of the interior offensive line. Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, Aaron Jones, a quality group of pass catchers for him to rely on as well. So I think when we look at how big of a step forward Sam Darnold took in this Kevin O'Connell offense, posting some loudy passing stats, but being kind of more middling in the advanced metrics like EPA per dropback, completion percentage over expectation, we see a chance for a guy like McCarthy, who's probably still a bit raw, to come in and at least be a serviceable QB with the upside for more and growth. I'm excited for this. I'm very glad the Minnesota Vikings are telling Aaron Rodgers to go kick rocks. I'll be honest. This is a great stat from Shieldcopedia. Since the Super Bowl era, there have only been 2 quarterbacks that have started 10-plus games, age 42 or greater: Tom Brady, Warren Moon. I think we've said it several times on this show where it looked like Aaron Rodgers was just quickly avoiding any kind of pressure or sacks last year over the back half of the year, more with a higher emphasis on him getting out of the game healthy than climbing in the pocket and making plays. Also, kudos to the Vikings for just saying no to him, because it's not just Rodgers. You get the circus media thing that comes with it. You get his old lackeys and old cronies. Like Alan Lazard's also going to be signing there with him still. They're going to find a way to get Nate Hackett involved. Don't let them drive this team into the ground. I'm glad they're sticking to their guns with McCarthy. They're telling Rodgers to go look elsewhere. My gut is Rodgers may not play until, let me rephrase this. He may not get signed until we see an injury. That's my hopeful outlook, given that I just don't see it with Rodgers anymore. Like, there was a time he was a great quarterback. I think that time is in the rearview mirror.
Please don't let it be Patrick Mahomes getting hurt and Aaron Rodgers going to the Chiefs. Please. The Vikings, by the way, signed Rondale Moore, who Jeff Mann said yesterday Jeff Mann said that Rondale Moore's PR firm is the greatest PR firm in the universe because for some reason we've been getting tons of Rondale Moore stories, as if that guy's any different than McCole Hardman. But it's not with the Vikings, so another weapon there for them. Talking to Tyler Beaker, fantasyguru.com. We've talked about Stefon Diggs before. He's reportedly visited the Patriots, yesterday. That makes sense on the surface, right? The Patriots need a guy. He'd be a great addition for the team. I don't know why Stefon Diggs would want to go to New England. I don't know. I mean, they're not winning the division. I think at this point it says one of two things. I need to either get paid or win a Super Bowl. Is anyone going to pay a 32-year-old guy coming off a knee injury? Like, is he really going to get paid? Is he more Juju Smith-Schuster than a guy a team can count on at this point? Let's reiterate the discussion we've had one more time about Stefon Diggs.
Yeah, there's a few older wideouts that are still in the market. It really comes down to what they personally want in terms of money versus rings. Some of these guys are prioritizing the right thing in terms of what we quote unquote say are the right things. Others may just want to set up their families for life. So I wouldn't be shocked to see if he goes there for the payday. And we know that he's not beyond being petty. Him getting a chance to play against the Bills twice a year would also be very enticing for Diggs. This team needs a wide receiver one. I think there's a shot. The number 4 pick that they have, the Patriots, could be spent on Travis Hunter. That could be an exciting selection.
Right.
Could also be an offensive lineman, given all the issues they've got there. There's a lot of paths for the Patriots in the NFL draft. That said, wide receiver one is a massive need for them. Bringing in a guy like Mac Hollins just screams to me not the solution. And then they had some swings and misses in last year's rookie draft. Jalen Polk, just unfortunately could not get it going. A lot of drops, a lot of miscommunication. And then, I don't know. I see that as a massive hole for the squad where there's a chance that they take a swing on a veteran like him, maybe Keenan Allen, maybe a guy that we can just get some dependency that Drake May can build with and get Drake May's play elevated, where he's the one who will later elevate the play of the wide receivers.
Tyler, the Chargers brought in Najee Harris, which is seemingly on paper a really good move for the team. A very similar outlook for Harris. Like, there was the debate heading into the offseason. If he's leaving the Steelers, how's that going to look? Well, he goes to another team that runs a similar-ish style of offense in the sense that they're going to give the ball to the running back. They want a balanced offense here. Harbaugh and Najee Harris is looking like 275 touches coming in. That's kind of what it looks like. Do you see it that way? And what do you make of the report that from The Athletic that they're going to be looking to add a complement in the draft? Are the Chargers basically going to be looking for their Jaylen Warren? Is that kind of what you're thinking?
Yeah, it's very possible. I mean, they let both Gus Edwards walk. J.K. Dobbins is still a free agent. They've got Vidal under a rookie contract still, but I didn't see much there, unfortunately. I liked him as a prospect, just did not really ascend when he had the opportunity to do so. So, yeah, adding depth makes a lot of sense for the squad. Shout out to Najee. I think he's got a great fantasy outlook. He's been a player that I typically avoided in fantasy drafts, partly due to the offensive line of the Steelers, partly due to the expectation of them scoring a lot of points. Can't say the same now. I think the Chargers are a team that can put up a lot of points. 2 phenomenal bookend tackles, a great coaching system. I'm excited for it. I think Najee's in an ADP of around 100.0 right now. Good chance that he climbs over the course of the offseason.
Carson Wentz? Browns? I mean, what are the Browns going to do? I mean, Kenny Pickett? Like, is that really what we're doing? They've got to do something, right? I guess drafting a quarterback of the future, yeah. I mean, you said, but is Carson Wentz worse than Kenny Pickett? Like, I mean, obviously they're in a rebuild mode and everything like that, but give those Browns fans some hope, Tyler, if you can. You can.
I think hope is probably getting Abdul Carter number 2, pairing him with Myles Garrett, and then in round 2, selecting a guy, Jackson Dart, that may slip to the round 2. That's the hope.
Okay.
I don't think Dart slips to round 2. Like I said with the spiel I did on Cam Ward, teams need to take swings at the quarterback position given how important it is. I wouldn't be shocked if they did it number 2 overall with Shedeur Sanders. I just see Sanders as more of a, if the play's in structure, he's doing what he's supposed to do. When the bullets start flying, though, and things get chaotic, which could happen behind that Cleveland offensive line, who's battled a lot of injuries over the last few years, also getting older, like a lot of those studs that we were banking on for those Nick Chubb 1,000-yard campaigns are getting a little dusty. I think this team it's hard to give an optimistic viewpoint for the QB position given just how bad things went, but you got to take shots. You got to go for a cultural rebuild, and maybe that's taking number 2 Sanders and just trying to distance yourself from Deshaun Watson as much as you can, because we know Pickens isn't it, we know Wentz isn't it. Maybe Sanders is the play at number 2 just for a cultural change, and I wouldn't blame them at all for taking that swing.
Tyler Baker, fantasyguru.com. You're mentioning draft. We both mentioned the draft and prospects and everything. How are things going on the football side of things over at fantasyguru.com right now with all those draft prospects? It's that time of year over at FG.
Yeah, we started unveiling our rookie profiles this week. I've already dropped 2 on the site, 2 wide receivers, Luther Burdern out of Missouri and Iowa State's Jayden Higgins. Both those guys, very interesting. Burdern I can view as a bit of a polarizing player where his 2023 campaign, he had a lot of great stats, great production. A lot of it could be viewed as fraudulent production because a lot of it came from the slot via screens and scheme touches or slot fades, which are pretty much a cheat code at the college level. So he's picked up a lot of production that way and very minimal production on the outside. He's an 85% slot guy during his time there. But again, it's the Missouri offense. It's not like a sledgehammer of a unit. He's played with the same quarterback the last 3 years. Maybe he just the optimistic side of me, the positive person in me wants to say that the best is yet to come and that maybe we just haven't seen him excel because of the offense he's been in and kind of hamstrung by it. There's a chance he's got a lot of physical skills that are very, very positive, where Burdern could be a guy that just blows what I'm saying out the door in terms of expectations. But I've seen him range anywhere from the wide receiver 1 in this class to a day 2 selection. So he's a guy that's a bit of a polarizing figure. Jayden Higgins is a 6'4", 214-pound prototypical X wideout. 2 years at Eastern Kentucky, then 2 years at Iowa State. Put up big numbers at Iowa State these last 2 years. This final year, his second to last year, he had a 3.00 yards per route run. Anything above 3 is a great number for a collegiate prospect. And then this last year, he was PFF's number 1 highest graded wide receiver. I like this guy. I think he's like kind of in the T. Higgins mold, which we talked about earlier. T. Higgins, Nico Collins, there's some typical comps you hear about him. But again, we see many NFL teams spend round 1 capital on guys that are more of like the 6 foot, 185, 200-pound guy. The throwback X wideout is kind of more antiquated at this point, but I feel like they round out teams really well whenever they've got guys that have good speed and they're not just big framed bodies. Higgins really checks that box. He had a really, really good showing at the NFL Combine, good show at the Senior Bowl. I think this is a guy who's been just nothing but a riser in terms of the draft process. So those are 2 wideouts that I've looked at so far this week in terms of writing the profiles. We've got dozens of more in store. Cam Ward, who we just talked about a little bit ago, I believe Armando Marçal will be writing about him for either today or tomorrow. So that should be up on the site shortly. But yeah, it's a rookie profile season over at fantasyguru.com. Come check it out.
Yeah, click that subscribe tab in the top right corner, go to the football section, and there's a whole host of options for you. We obviously would love it if you went all in, get you everything, so you don't have to worry about missing anything. You can do the basic seasonal package, the elite seasonal package, the DFS package, the betting package. You got all those options. And don't forget, there is a link at the top when you go to the football page for the franchise mode. So if you're not looking to do everything, you're kind of looking just to get these player profiles that Tyler's talking about and everything like that, you can sign up for the franchise mode right now. That gets you dynasty rankings, Discord channel, so you can talk about those dynasty rankings, the draft player profiles that Tyler's mentioning, mini camp reports, a live stream, maybe a mock draft or 2, some UFL rankings for those of you involved with the other form of football. So check that out. That's the franchise mode if you're looking just to do something kind of here in the offseason. FantasyGuru.com, click that subscribe tab at the top. Get all the sports, including all of Tyler's football coverage. Tyler, thanks for your visit today. We really appreciate it. We'll look forward to talking with you again next week and continue reading those rookie player profiles. Because I know one thing, folks love talking the draft and love talking those rookies. So you'll be reading those profiles here pretty soon over at FG.
Thank you, and good luck to anybody with your March Madness wagers today. Have fun.
Are you involved with that, by the way? I'm not. I don't make any bones about it. I'm not a college basketball guy. You shook your head. You're not either.
No, I used to be, but I'll be honest, I found it as a distraction from work, and I love my job so much that I don't really want the distraction now. So I just blindly bet the first half under on every single game in round one over the last 5 years. Well, last year was a bad year for it, but the 5 years prior to it, 61% hit rate combined. So I don't know much.
For the first half.
Under for the first half.
Okay.
Yep. And I'm with you, Angelo. Let's go Duke. I think they have a good chance to do it well this year.
Don't let Duke. Come on. I don't know. Duke's always Coach K with Jeff Mans always did the Coach K things. I watched a pretty good special about Leitner. I'm sure other people have seen it. It's like one of the 30 on 30 or whatever, when the villain and everything like that, stopping people out. I remember that was kind of when I was a kid. But yeah, I just college basketball. I watched like maybe the Final Four, maybe. I just never watched it as a kid, Tyler. I don't know. It's just into other things.
That's fair. Yeah, it grew on me during my high school, college years, but it really grew on me once I entered the workforce and I found a way to not pay attention to work.
Well, good that he doesn't do that now, and he just mentioned it. He loves his job now, so we don't have that problem. Tyler, thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you again on Thursday, and thanks so much for your time.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Ray.
You got it. He's Tyler Beaker. Tomorrow we'll visit with Russell Clay. We'll do the first half of the show talking baseball. We'll review those Twitter polls that I ran, as well as kind of the main thrust of that baseball discussion. Then we'll talk football with Russell Clay at about 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. For Tyler Beaker, I am Ray Flowers. Go to fantasyguru.com, click that subscribe tab in the top right corner, and join us for the fun in 2025. For Tyler, I'm Ray. Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by fantasyguru.com.